Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Path to Profit podcast. I'm Dr. Minette Riordan here with my fabulous husband, Dr. Mr. Brad Dawson.
Still haven't got a
I
doctorate.
still haven't got a
that.
doctorate. I don't know, maybe it's like aspirational. Maybe you're going to go get a doctorate at some point.
Yeah, back to school.
Back to school. You've talked about it over the years. Anyway, welcome. We're delighted you're here to episode 91. Like, it's just blowing me away.
We love doing this.
I know, going through these episodes.
It's fun. Sometimes it's hard to get set up and we fuss and we worry about what we're going to talk about. And then inevitably we get all smiley when we start talking. Maybe it's just because we like to talk and hear our voices.
Just live our whole life with that little record button on, you know? It's like we get motivated.
I think there's a story in that somewhere.
Anyway, welcome to April. April, we are doing a couple of fun things. Yep. Our next couple of episodes are going to be all about money. As the founders of the Path to Profit Academy, we're kind of passionate about money and profit. So today we're going to specifically be sharing 3 secrets to pricing your creative products and services for profit.
3 secrets.
And we got a couple of great examples to share as well.
Definitely.
You want to start with a quote?
I do. This is from someone called Stuart Wilde, who I've never heard of.
Me either, but his stuff is really cool.
Learning to charge properly is a vital key to abundance. Affirm that you will never devalue yourself by charging less than what you feel you are worth. And I think, just sit there, dear listener, for a second and actually affirm that you will never devalue yourself by charging less than what you feel you are worth. Yeah. It's important to be able to say. And, we've seen it a lot with our clients.
And ourselves.
I guess especially women, but I think it's true for everybody. We have a tendency to just go get the work. But women particularly, I think, struggle more with a lot of the self-worth type of things. We've certainly seen that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've shared the story before. I don't know if I ever shared on the podcast about when I first started my coaching business. After 11 years of selling advertising and being really comfortable selling advertising, making the switch then to selling coaching felt so different. It was really challenging. I didn't know how much to charge. I was scared to ask for the money. Brad can tell stories about listening to me on sales calls, hearing the little break in my voice when I would get to that moment where I had to actually ask for the price. And it's hard when you feel like you're selling yourself or when you're selling your art and it's like something that you have personally made. We do have so much emotion caught up in our business and in the work that we're producing. But the truth is that pricing doesn't have anything to do with emotion. It's actually really practical. So we want to share some of the practical tips as well as the mindset strategies for creating pricing that you feel completely aligned with so that when you do ask for the sale, you ask for it with confidence and without your voice breaking.
Yeah. And you actually ask for a number that makes you a profit and doesn't just make you money.
So can you talk a little bit about the difference between making money and making a profit?
Right. So let's say that you let's say that you paint a painting. So you drove to Michael's and you bought a canvas and you bought some amount of paint materials and brushes
and sponges and texture makers.
I think we're surrounded by about half of Michael's supplies here at the next studio office.
Give away my secrets.
And so you bought all those things and then you drove back home in your car and it took you 2 hours to paint it or 20 hours to paint it, whatever that may be.
It's more likely.
And then you came to me or Minette and you said, Brad, Minette, what should I charge for this? Should I charge, I don't know, $49 or $69? And we actually went through this with a client recently.
We could show Rebecca's Zendo house.
A physical product that she made.
Did.
And I kind of looked at her askance and sort of said, are you kidding me? And so the point of this little story is that you need to add up, well, how much was the canvas? How much were the paints? How much did you pay to have your car used in business to get you to Michael's and back? And add those up and then give yourself an hourly rate. At least find out what minimum wage is.
Yeah.
And so say you made $15 an hour and it took you 20 hours. That works out to $300. And
I'm
then
glad you could do the math fast in
it
your head.
cost you another $50 for supplies. So that's $350. And then you came to Brad Manette and you said, oh, I want to charge $49 for it. Well, then you operated at a net loss. You didn't actually make any money.
Yeah.
You wanted to operate at a profit. And so you wanted to charge more than that $350 for the cost of time and materials that it took you.
So that's one great example, but I want to back up just a little bit. So even before we get into the nitty gritty of pricing products and services, is a great example of pricing a product. And you have to look at what the market will bear. And you look at, are you selling the original? Are you selling prints, right? There's so many factors.
Well, and that's for physical items.
And that's for physical items. But I want to back up even above that. And you kind of, for me, miss the key thing to start with is that you have to get really clear about how much money you need to make in your business to run your business, right? You got to start with what we call affectionately your bold money goal. What's that big annual number that you need to make in order to pay yourself, to pay all the cost of running your business and still have money left over, right? That's what profit is. After you paid everything, including yourself, it's what's left over, right? And at the end of the day, we all want to have money left over because that's where true financial freedom comes from, is when then you have money to invest, you have money to save, you have money to contribute to the lifestyle dreams that you've had of maybe taking your family to Thailand. So it's so important to first start with that bigger goal of this is the exact number. And it doesn't matter at all if that number is 10,000 or 10 million. You still have to know the number because then you can work backwards. So when it comes to pricing for profit, it's a combination of what Brad shared so beautifully. I can't, like, you can do that off the top of your head so fast. So what Brad shared about each product that you create or each service that you offer not only has to include your time and the cost of doing business, but also the cost of running your business. Like the car was such a great example. So the car, the camera you bought to take great pictures of your art so that you can sell it, the time that it took to post it on Instagram where somebody saw it and said, hey, I want that, right? So there's so many factors that contribute to pricing. So it's essential that you fall in love with your numbers and get to know them really, really well so that you're not having kind of magical thinking about your pricing. And we've seen clients, I've had 2 clients that love the number 11. So one was only charging $11 for some things, and the other one wanted everything to add up magically to 11. And no judgment around the number 11. And it is a great number, but it's not practical. So it's okay to have magical numerology and astrology built into your pricing as long as those numbers are also grounded in reality. It's that combination of what really matters to you and is important to you with the real world. This is how much I need to make this business really go.
Yeah, and I kind of want to underscore that with it's okay to have a hobby, and it's okay to be a not-for-profit organization.
Yep.
Or a volunteer organization.
In fact, it's awesome.
Those things are fantastic.
Yeah.
You want a hobby? Get a hobby.
Yeah, you can see my hobby. All those trips to Michael's, they're in the hobby category.
Do you want to be a nonprofit and be that type of service to the world? More power to you. That's wonderful. But you're not listening to this podcast called the Path to Profit podcast because that's what you're looking for. You're looking to make a profit, and you really do need to price your products and services so that you make a profit. It's not just about making money, it's about making a profit.
Yeah, we want to share another really practical fun story that we just watched happen in our creative business accelerator. So actually he had 2 kind of awesome celebrations recently. One was that he finally launched his horror film community to a site called Patreon. And Patreon's pretty cool. patreon.com. We'll make sure it's in the show resources. We should write that down so we don't forget to list it. Where it is like a crowdfunding Kickstarter concept and membership site all rolled into one where people support your creative projects. So it's a really great thing to do. And in order to make sites like that work, you have to be able to give generously to your community that's supporting you, but not so generously that you go broke. So you have to really understand what's involved in what you're giving to people in return for their support. But the same videographer also pitched a job at $4,000, I think, to
Maybe
do.
10.
No, it wasn't.
Okay.
And then another filmmaker came to him and said, that's too much. Nobody will pay that, which to me was like, made my heart go, oh, I'm so sorry someone said that, because he's totally worth the $4,000. And so he said, did I do myself a disservice by then going back to these people and saying, hey, we can do it for 2,500 instead of 4,000? And so Brad and I helped him walk through the pricing strategy of how much time of his will it take. He also has to hire other camera operators. How much is he paying those camera operators for their time? How much time will it involve for all the editing that goes on after the fact to deliver a 3-minute trailer? So all the pieces had to be included. And so when he looked at all the pieces, he realized that at $2,500, he was still going to make a profit.
Mm-hmm.
And what he was most curious about was this impacting his mindset. And we said, it's really not about mindset. You know you're worth it and you'll get there. As long as you're making a profit, it could be a great place to start. And the other thing that came under consideration for this particular project was it is going to create an incredible amount of visibility for this particular visibility videographer.
Yeah.
And so the trade-off sometimes is about, will it turn into more job opportunities?
Yeah, and that's kind of how a loss leader works.
But it's not a loss leader because he was still making a profit.
Yeah, but he could have. I mean, gosh, we've all been there before. If you think that there's an ocean at the end of that pond, then you know you can
At the end of the river.
whatever it is. My analogy blew out of the water, so to speak. But
Yeah.
anyways, you get the point. If you do have an opportunity that where you can give someone something at a tremendous discount, but then see other opportunities down the road, or it's worth it just to get the experience. Well, yeah, we understand that. You got to do it
But
to
at
expand
some
your
point,
business.
you got to stick to your guns and charge what you're worth, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I think the thing that we see is people, if you don't do the math behind the pricing, it's too easy to get caught up in the mindset of, oh, they won't pay for that, or, oh, it's great visibility, and to always be running at a deficit. And what Jacob did correctly was to realize that he could still make a profit at this particular price point and get the visibility, right? It was a win-win and a win for the organization that would get his incredible services and talents at a rate that was more affordable for them as well. So pricing isn't black and white, right? It definitely has some complexity to it depending on your business model. And yet it's not about mindset. It is about numbers, and it is about the payoffs, and it is about being able to make projections. So we talked about, you have to get clear about how much money you want to make. You have to get clear about the value of what you're selling and the impact that it's going to have on the buyer, right? And then finally, you have to be really crystal clear about how many do you need to sell in order to reach that money goal.
Mm-hmm.
So like Brad shared the example of a $49 painting. Well, if you want to make $50,000 this year and you're selling a $50 painting, that's 100,000 paintings?
No.
10,000 paintings.
10,000 paintings.
10,000 paintings, right?
Or, I'm sorry, 1,000 paintings.
1,000 paintings. Even it was a lot.
And that's
See,
gross.
don't ask Manette
That's
to
gross,
do
right?
math, and that's gross. Yes, don't ask Manette to do math in her head. Can you produce 1,000 paintings?
Right.
Could you give 10,000 or 1,000 hours of coaching services this year? There's only so many hours in a day when you can actually be delivering your service or creating products to sell,
And
especially one-off products. And do you have enough clients in place or a clear system in place for generating leads to buy your products? So when it comes to pricing, you have to be realistic about how much you want to make and how many of those products or services do you have the capacity to create and sell as well.
I wanted to go back to one thing about our secret number two, about getting clear about the value of what you're selling.
We kind of glossed over that one a little bit.
Well, just as it relates to services like coaching, I think there's an interesting calculus there. You have a lot of people who are new to coaching, for instance, and they hang out their shingle and they say, okay, I'm going to start at $50 an hour, $100 an hour. And, they hear about big name coaches that are making $500 or $1,000 an hour or whatever that may be. So this is when you're first doing that, I think it's really important to understand if you get that initial price too low, you're not valuing yourself, but people also see that when they look at the price. People who are going to buy coaching, as Manette and I have done quite often in the past, they don't necessarily want to buy the cheapest rate. And not only they don't want to do that because it doesn't sound like it's the best service that they're going to get. So don't feel like you need to absolutely be the cheapest. Now, you're not going to hang out your shingle unless you're just full of confidence and have, Buddha level wisdom right out of the gate. It's going to be hard for you to charge a whole bunch per hour. But don't really lowball it. Start yourself off with something that's a quality number, and then build from there, I think.
Well, I would actually do a comparative analysis of what you've made before in the past, whether you were a teacher, a nurse, a corporate executive, an executive assistant. People come, an athlete, people come from all different careers into coaching. And what happens is that because they feel like they're new at coaching, they discount the amount of experience that they're bringing to the process. Right? So making sure that you're really valuing all the knowledge and information that you have as part of what you bring to a coaching experience that makes you incredibly unique and different. And this is true whether you're a graphic designer or whether you're a copywriter. No, you're not going to charge as much when you're still new in business, but you're not going to charge peanuts either, right? You've obviously invested time in education, you've invested time in your work, you've invested time in your talents and your skills. That matters to people. And so you need to charge a rate that's commensurate with your level of skill and experience.
Yeah,
and
people were attracted to you.
Yeah,
and your message.
That's right.
They want you.
Yeah. And I think, Brad has a great point about really understanding what it is that people want from you and what they're willing to pay for. And that comes from you being able to clearly articulate the results that you create for them, the difference that you're going to make in their life, whether they're buying a piece of art or coaching or design or a book. Doesn't matter. You have to be clear about the transformation you're creating for them, because what they're buying is transformation. And so even though we said pricing is really practical, pricing is also relative to your ability to create transformation for people.
You bet. Good stuff. So what do? We said you got to get clear about how much money you want and need to make. You've got to get clear about the value of what you're selling
and the impact it will have on the buyer.
Mm-hmm. And what was the last one?
Get clear about how many you need to sell to actually reach that bold money goal. And remember that your sales prices are always gross prices. They have to cover your cost of doing business and your salary and make you some profit all at the same time.
Definitely. And if you want to dig into this more, we have just some fantastic resources in our Creative Business Academy, and we can put links to that in the show notes.
Absolutely. We'd love to.
Cool. What are we doing next week?
What are we doing next week? Next week, dun, da, 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 we're so organized. We are going to episode 92 after 91. Mm-hmm. Like, that's kind of magical, right? We're still talking about money, but we're going to dive into 5 ways to improve your relationship with money mindset hacks for creative entrepreneurs, because we can talk about pricing and strategy all day long. But if you don't believe it's possible for you to charge that much, or you don't believe it's possible for you to make money, or you have some other crazy stories around money, like we all do, that money's the root of all evil, for example,
sure,
then you're never going to get there from pricing. So we want to make sure that you get both sides of this equation, the strategy and the practical, tactical side of pricing, as well as the mindset side.
Good stuff.
All right. We'll see you on the next episode.